Alright guys, so in this video we're gonna see how I painted the walls behind. And what I do is just using that large brush, I'm just gonna make the first layer using that brown grayish brown tones, and just make that first layer, that make up the base color for the wall. And then later on I'm just going to use that small brush to help me do the bricks. Right, so there are two layers that are involved. First is the light brown tone that make up the first layer, and then some other colors. Once it's dry, we can actually form more patterns on the top. So we use different browns to paint the walls, and these different browns actually make up a more interesting kind of mixture of colors, because again we don't want to just have the same brown, but we have darker browns, we have lighter browns, and all these different textures will help to make up, all these different color combinations will help to really form all these interesting textural formations, subtly changes in tones, and all these very interesting kinds of changes that we see on the wall. Right, so we have the use of this light brown, which is burnt sienna. So this burnt sienna is really one of my favorite colors because they have some red pigments right there. It has some red pigments, so that will give the brown a more warm and a very attractive kind of hue. So I'm just using that light brown again to combine with the slightly darker brown that I just did. And this kind of a very nice way to mix colors when we have all these rhythmic kind of colors that are going on. So in the original photo you wouldn't be able to see all these changes, but again, as I mentioned, in a painting you can create all these very interesting changes that will really give you all these amazing kinds of things. So I'm using that white color pencil to help me with some of the details. But now we are moving on to the second layer. So right now the first layer has been done and it is dry, so I use different tones and thicknesses of browns using that small brush to paint the cracks that is formed because of the bricks. Right, so right now I'm just using that small brush, and you can see that the bricks are not the same in size, and so I'm using that small brush to kind of like create all these different sized bricks. So you can see right there we have some longer, we have some smaller, we have some irregular shaped kinds of bricks, and doesn't matter if the line is not straight. So when we do all these crooked lines, all these lines that are not straight, and slightly darker lines sometimes, and slightly lighter lines and thinner lines, so all these will really make these amazing kinds of changes that will really make it more interesting, instead of just purely same bricks and using the same straight lines to do all these bricks. So that wouldn't be as interesting as what I'm doing right now. And so we have these the use of this light small brush to again continue on painting with the rest of the wall right there. So right here I'm using a very light tone. Again, this is in contrast with the darker lines that I just did earlier on. So these lighter strokes again give rise to changes in terms of the textures, in terms of all these different changes that we see right here that make up the the wall. And again, I did all these changes on purpose because it is more interesting to have all these changes rather than the same. So again, doing these carpets which we have seen in the earlier video, again using all these different tones and different colors, and here we have this blue carpet, and then later on we have this lighter carpets. Okay, so now I'm using the brush to paint the darker area, and just trying to make more details right there. And so you can see I'm using different browns. So you can see I'm not just using brown, but we have dark blues, we have some blacks, and again doing the same kind of texture and the same lines for the bricks. Okay, so now we are moving on to the top part. Again, using different browns and different kinds of light browns and dark browns and lines to do all these bricks. Right, so now we are moving on to this area right here, which is the building right there at the top left. So this is the final part of the painting, and we are going to make sure that we have all these different kinds of textures that are being added. So again, I'm just going to show you something that I did, a little trick that I did. So what I do is I use this black paint to make sure that we have all these stains on the wall. So having all these stains on the wall will make it doesn't look so clean, so that we have some kinds of rustic kind of feel, and this will really make your art special. Right, so we have these darker spots, these darker areas, and these lighter areas, and of course these kinds of changes and these kinds of interesting kind of features will make the wall come out more alive, which is what you're seeing right now. It is not just a very smooth wall, but it consists of all these different kinds of browns and blacks. You can do it when it's still wet, you can do it when it's dry, but when it's dry it doesn't really blend together, so it's best to do it when it is still wet, semi-wet. So when it is semi-wet, then the paint will kind of like spread it out a little bit, and you can see this very, very nice effect. Okay, so using that brush, I'm just trying to make sure that we have, all these browns that are being added. And again, you see the effects of the watercolor that pushes the paint so that there's a little bit of those lines, and that will also make the wall more interesting. So we have these lines, again using a small brush, which is helping me to paint all these lines. Just using that larger brush right now, that is helping me to do the yellow that you're seeing right now, and then just filling up that space, just using some of these lines again to do the bricks. So again, using different thicknesses and different kinds of curvy lines, different sizes for the bricks, and all these will really make it look much more interesting rather than just using straight lines. So just filling up this area, which is the windows. And if you're there in Jaisalmer, you see that this is very interesting when we have all these birds, all these pigeons also, which like to reside in all these openings and all these windows, and you can see them flying all around the place. It's really a very nice and very special place. So I really encourage you to visit this place if you can visit India. Do come to this place called Rajasthan, Jaisalmer. So I use color pencil to add in more details, again using that light brown and the darker brown. So this is helping me to actually add in more details, because again this area it is pretty light, so it may not be that interesting. So just using that color pencil, that actually helped me to make more, add in more interest. So right now I'm just using that small brush to do the pigeons. Okay, all these birds that are being perched on the walls. So we have this small brush that I use to actually do the birds. Right? So I'm just using that small brush to help me with all these different kinds of textures, again doing the lines for the bricks at the bottom half of this building, right? So this is really coming out well with all these different kinds of lines that make up this amazing kind of wall texture. And I'm sure that you are enjoying this right now, because you can see all these browns are really very satisfying to look at, because we have all these different colors that are coming together, and there is never a dull moment looking at these very rich kinds of browns, which I did because I changed a lot of things. I change the tones, I vary the tones, I vary the hues, I vary the way that I apply the brush, and also I vary the lines for the bricks in all possible ways. And all these different changes are what make this painting look amazing. So we have this large area which is on the extreme left, which is the last part of our painting right there. So I'm just showing you how I applied these browns. So you can see I just applied one layer and then one area, and then using that small brush just doing a few strokes to show some of the darker stains, the darker details. So this is another way that we can actually do these walls, you know, just do one part and then we can do another part and just combine these areas together. And you can see right there, I actually made that stain, that spot when it's still wet, so it spreads out a little bit. But again, you have to control the spreading, just make sure there's not too much water. Right, so using that pink color pencil, just adding in a little bit of details. Again, using that brush, I'm just trying to make sure that we have all these different kinds of browns and some dark stains, you know, dark paint to stain the walls. And these are some amazing, very practical techniques that I used to make all these different kinds of, you know, things that you're seeing right now. Right, so just trying to finish up this final part of the wall. Okay, so I'm leaving white the windows first. You can see all these windows are being left white, which I'm going to fill in later because I just want them to be dark. Just using my fingers to kind of help me with all these different kinds of blending. So again, doing the final part of the bricks here, doing all these lines and making sure we have all these spots, all these black spots that forms all these very nice kinds of details in the middle of each line. And then using that small brush, I'm just going to complete all these windows. Right, so we are nearing the end of this painting. Just trying to touch up everything using that small little brush. And I'm just going to very quickly make sure that we have these birds, using the color pencil to help me with the birds. And also using the small brush, I'm just going to paint the line right there. We have this thick black line in the middle that separates the two different sections. And again, doing the windows. So the windows for this part is lighter as compared to those on the right hand side. And I'm just going to use some darker tones for the top windows. So these windows at the top are smaller, those above the larger window right there. So this part here, I'm just using a very light tone to do the lines because this part here is facing the sunlight. So the lines that represent the bricks are being represented with a lighter tone, okay, as compared to those on the right hand side. Okay, so we have the use of this white color pencil that helps me with the doing of some of the details, so just touching up a little bit. So you can see all these amazing details that are being added with this darker lines, darker strokes that make up, you know, this drawing, this part of the painting. So finally, just using the brush to help me with that, this very final part, okay, which is here at the bottom right hand corner, just above those items that you're seeing right now, and using the color pencil. So this color pencil is very useful when it comes to adding details to the wall as well, especially the white color pencil that adds in more, you know, like textures, very subtle kinds of changes for the wall. Okay, so we're almost done right there. And so the thing is, we need to make sure that we have all these changing browns that will make up the wall, and these changing elements will really make the walls come alive. So first, do the first layer, and then when it's dry, do the bricks using those lines. Hey everyone, it's KY Tom here. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button and comment down below. Do consider to subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Check out the links on the description below to find out more about my art, and I hope to see you in the next one.